Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're looking at a couple of knives from my grandfather's junk drawer. My mom has become a minimalist officially. She's been working on it for a while. So is my sister. Not like we're gonna move into a 10 square foot small house and own four things kind of minimalist, but definitely wanting to downgrade in life. It causes stress for both of them to just have a bunch of junk laying around, So for the past year or so, she's been kind of going through things, doing cleanups, getting rid of stuff they just don't use, getting rid of junk, things like that, trying to, tidy up the house. And my mom came across some stuff that my grandfather owned, and she was getting rid of it. So I was going through some of the, she was asking if I can help, and I was going through and helping her with it and everything. And I told her, set the stuff that you don't want in a separate pile. I'll throw it out for you, but I want to go through it first. This is all my grandfather's stuff. If she doesn't want it, that's okay, but I might want it. And going through the pile, I did find a couple things that I wanted. So this is a good representation of what you're going to find at a garage sale or like a flea market or a church sale, and people just getting rid of old junk, especially 60s and 70s and 80s knives, kitchen stuff. You always find these kinds of things. Pretty much every antique store I've ever been to and every garage sale I've ever seen, there's a fair chance that you're going to find some old cutlery or kitchen items, especially kitchen gadgets, but always kitchen knives. When I go to Goodwill, there's always a section with kitchen knives, stuff like this, you know what I mean? So some of these things I kept for personal reasons because they're sentimental, because it's my family. And some of it's just kind of cool. So I want to talk about it a little bit here with you, because there's some interesting designs here, and you might come across one of these and be like, what is that? And I want to talk about it a little bit. So the first thing is this knife. This was not my grandfather's knife. This was my father's knife. And it wasn't actually my father's knife. This was a knife from a restaurant that my father accidentally stole when they were putting, their meal in their to-go thing years ago. This made it in there on accident. You got a steak or whatever, didn't finish it, just put all the food in, dumped the plate or whatever, maybe rested the knife on there and then, got distracted, closed the lid or whatever. My dad is a very honest person, never stole anything in his life, except for maybe this knife and something else on accident that he doesn't even know about, I'm sure. But it was a big funny thing because he got home and he's like, oh my God, I took the knife, maybe I can call him or something. No, they don't, it's just one of those things, it's not a big deal. But it's funny because now that he had it at the house, he used it all the time. He loved this knife. So this is my dad's favorite steak knife for a long time. Let's see, it is made by Tramontina, stainless steel, Brazil. Obviously it was, purchased through a restaurant supply, but anyway, it's just super funny. It's got a serrated portion towards the front there, all right, and a straight edge on the bottom. But he loved it. It has a funny story, you know what I mean? So I'll always have this. It'll remind me of my dad. All right, so that's nothing to do with my grandfather. Now this is my grandfather's stuff. So the first guy up here is a bread knife. If you've ever seen these fully serrated knives like this shape, this is a classic bread knife. This is specifically designed to cut through bread, just basically saw through it with these serrated teeth. Fantastic for that, especially things like bagels. You don't have to be limited. I mean, any knife can be used for any task. You can cut a tomato with this just fine. But when you are cutting bread, especially, large loaves of bread or something, using a straight edge is going to be a lot more difficult. You're going to end up, if it's super sharp, maybe it's not too bad, but more times than not, your kitchen knives are probably not razor sharp. So you end up squishing the bread, and you don't want to do that, okay? So having a fully serrated edge like this is fantastic for that particular purpose, especially good crusty breads. So yeah, that's what that is. It's not particularly special or interesting. I just want to keep it. So then we have these weird shaped things. What are these? Actually, before we get to those, let's talk about this guy. This is just a standard bottle opener from the 70s. This one is an Echo brand. You can Google Echo. It's E-K-C-O. They're actually super rich in history. They've been around a long time. At some point, it was 70% of all kitchen stuff, kitchen gadgets and cutlery came from this company. This one just happens to be a cool vintage one from the 70s. This one's in lime green. These probably sell for maybe 10 or 12 bucks, something like that. You can find these online. If you're really interested, there's a ton of them. Like I said, they made millions of these things. But people who are into the Cole throwback retro type deal, this is a cool thing to have. And this wasn't cool when my grandfather got it. He just got it because he needed a can opener. Now, as far as the tools that are on here, we have a bottle opener on one side. Okay, that's a flat side. So this is just a regular bottle opener, or cap lifter, as some people might say. And then we have a can opener, but it's not what you think. It's not like to remove the top of a can. It's to puncture those triangle holes in a can. Like if you have a can of liquid, let's say it's evaporated milk, you're baking something, you're cooking something, a can of broth. If you buy your broth in a can, you would puncture with this tool on one side. It would, you know, push in like a triangle shaped hole, and then you do a little one on the other side so it doesn't glug. And that's how you'd pour it out. So you don't have to, like on a liquid, a can full of liquid, you don't have to cut the whole top off. You just puncture it and pour it out, if you didn't know. And then there's a little corkscrew here for opening wine. A very simple design. It pokes through the back here, so you push this to get that started so you can grab it. All right, and then obviously you can use this to open your wine bottles. And then a little ring to hang it. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward stuff. It's just kind of cool. Again, it was my grandfather, so it means something to me, and I'll use it around the house. So I had a generic one that had both the bottle opener as well as the little puncturing tool. I don't know the official name for that, but I'm gonna swap it out. The other one means nothing. That was my grandfather, so it means a little something to me, so I'll keep that. All right, so on to these weird knives. These two knives here are actually two different designs for the same purpose. Now, what would you guess these are for? All right, this has a very slender kind of neck, I guess you'd say. Then it pushes out a little bit, a little serrated round portion towards the tip. What do you think this is for? Then we have this guy who has a serrated edge on both sides, and there's a bend in it. And it's funny because I've seen people literally talk about this at my local church sale. I saw one of these there. I didn't mean anything to me at the time, but they saw this and they said, oh, you know, that's a shame that's bent. It's supposed to be bent. It was made with that bend in it. All right, so if you find one of these, don't bend it back. It's not going to work anyway. It's specifically put there. So what are these for? These are grapefruit knives. All right, so if you happen to eat a lot of grapefruit, you might want to invest in a grapefruit knife. Now, if you look at this one first, you can see that the double serrated edge is so that you can use this right-handed or left-handed. It doesn't make a difference. So it's completely ambidextrous. All right, the tip has a little rounded portion. And then the bend here is so that, I wish I had a grapefruit to show you. I don't have one currently, but when you cut it, you cut a grapefruit in half, and you can use this obviously to cut it in half. You take your half a grapefruit, and let's say this is, my thumb is the wall of the grapefruit, like here's the rind or whatever. You take the small flat part here and you just slip it down. All right, you cut the little wedge. Now you're cutting the fruit away from the pith. The pith is the hard white part that's very bitter. You don't want to eat that, right? Obviously. So by using this knife, I'm sure there's a YouTube video on it. There's YouTube videos on everything. In fact, I'll search myself after this, but just search grapefruit knife. You know what I mean? You'll find something, I'm sure. But this tool allows you to easily cut the fruit, just the fruit, away from the pith, so you don't have any of that bitter stuff, even though the grapefruit juice is bitter. But you don't have that super bitter pith. You cut just the fruit out, and you can cut it out in all the wedges. You know, my grandfather on my mother's side, because this, I'm talking about my father's father, but my mother's father, my other grandfather, he loved grapefruit as well, and he used a grapefruit spoon, which is very popular. Okay, that's like a spoon that has some serrated, you know, towards the tip there, and that's kind of to cut through it and stuff. But this is just a different way to do that. But yeah, watch a video on it. Super interesting. You ever seen one of these? That's what that is. It's a grapefruit knife. This is also a grapefruit knife. I don't think it works as great as this, all right, because I've used both of these before. But this one still works fine, I guess, compared to, you know, some other just generic knife. And again, this just is designed to allow you to kind of get in there and cut those specific wedges of fruit or fruit cluster. You know, if you've ever seen grapefruit, it's a bunch of little tiny teardrop shaped, you know, things that have juice in it, right? But they're clustered together, almost like a wedge of orange or something. And last up is this interesting looking tool. All right, this has a nice bend in it, and this is a spreading knife. All right, condiment spreader / butter knife. Now we know butter knives to be straight, you know, kind of like this, only without the serrations. And that works totally fine. If you have bread, you know, not like you need a specialty tool, but you can scrape some butter off and then on your bread, just, you know, spread it around. Not a big deal, right? But this one actually works a little better to spread your butter. All right, so because of the angle here, it's really easy to be able to spread stuff. Whether you're spreading butter on bread or jelly or whatever, this particular design just works a little bit better. All right, so if you ever see one of these weird bends, it almost looks kind of like a cake fork or whatever that's called. You know, where you take the cake or pie fork. I don't know if they actually call it a fork because there's no prongs. It's like a pie spatula. I don't know the term for it, but you know what I'm talking about, right? It's like that. It's shaped like that very much, but it works very well for spreading. So that's what these tools are. I don't know why I felt the need to share it, but if you happen to stumble across these and you're like, those are some strange looking utensils, now you know at least what they're for. So yeah, that's it. Let me know down in the comment section if you guys have any kind of like kitchen cutlery, maybe from a family member that's no longer with you, it just has a sentimental value to you. Maybe it was passed down, you know, who knows. It's funny, in the past, my old utensil set that have the pigtail ends, I know some of you guys who've been watching a long time remember those. I used to use those in all my videos for years, and people would always comment on them, and I still have that set, by the way. I'll never get rid of that. That will be my heirloom set of utensils, forks and spoons and knives. And one day when I have a kid, they will get passed on to them. And maybe they'll care about them, maybe they won't. That's okay with me either way. I don't want to push any sentimental value on anyone for anything. But yeah, those are such a part of me. I mean, I got that set when I was single. And of course, when I got married with Christina, she loved it too. There's no problem. But at some point, she's like, oh, you know, I kind of like these. And I'm like, that's fine. You know, we don't have to get rid of the old ones. We just pack them away. You know, and you want to try something new, you try something new. But I'll always have those. Those are my utensils for good. But anyway, that's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe it helped you reminisce a little bit about your family cutlery. And like I said, if nothing else, maybe you learned a little thing or two. If you ever see these things at, like I said, those sales, you'll know what it is. And even if you're not interested in buying it, maybe you'll turn to the person next to you and go, hey, I know what that knife is. This is a grapefruit knife. Wow, how do you know that? Because of Jeff. Jeff told me, and I trusted he was right. But if you don't trust me, you can Google it, and you can see as well. So that's all. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.